because it's the silly, stupid, fascinating, weird, wonderful. They're my people, and more often than not, they're the geeky people as well.
I mentioned Betamax. For anybody older, that's the old version of a video cassette. Video cassette is an old version of a DVD. A DVD is not set on the cloud. Hello, good evening to another Faith and Geekery. My name is Mark, and tonight we don't have Becca. She is, I was about to say missing without action or out of action, but she is busy. So we think of you tonight, Becca. And I've got to say, we had a guest scheduled, and I'm afraid James isn't feeling very well tonight. So I hope you're feeling better, James. And you just rest up and get better. And I'm sure we'll have time to get you online and have that proper chat another time. That being said, I am not alone. I'm not alone tonight. I have been joined by Emma, and I'm just going to bring Emma up onto the stage. Good evening, Emma. Thank you for stepping in last minute to come and join us, though you are always welcome. And I think you've actually been mentioned a few times on the show already, whether that's been helping out with the quiz, helping quizzes, or just being in and around and about. But you've I was about to say, have you listened or watched or otherwise off air and things like that anyway, haven't you? Or what other phrase that I would use?
I've been catching up with them.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And I think you're on Discord now as well, aren't you? And things like that. So
I am, yeah.
So thank you for being part of the community, really. How are you doing? Have you been up to anything geeky recently? And that's a question for everyone listening as well and watching.
I've been making slime, which is quite geeky. So our little girl, I was deciding what can I do to kind of keep her occupied while I'm trying to do other things. And instead of buying slime, I thought it'd be fun to make it. So for the past week, I then got really into making slime. So that's what I've been doing in my free time at the minute.
It's maybe not the end all of things, but have you been successful in making the slime, or is the process been helpful? Oh, good.
It's actually pretty easy. You need 3 ingredients, and then I just put food coloring in, and you keep mixing it, and it turns into slime.
Very good, very good. And has your daughter been enjoying the slime as well?
She has, but she's quite a pedantic child in that she has to wear gloves to play with the slime because she says it's sticky, which I don't think is most people just use their normal hands. But she has been enjoying it, even though she has to wear gloves. So overall, it's been a success.
But have you enjoyed making it more than what she's been enjoying playing with it?
Yeah, I think the fact that I've made it twice now, and she was really just happy with the first slime I made. I didn't need to make another one. So it's just more for me now, really, as a hobby making it.
No, it's one of those things, isn't it, that you kind of that you have various things that go alongside parenthood. And so we went through a phase of making Play-Doh and things like that, because that was the thing. And just thinking, well, when am I ever going to need to use this skill again? Just like my kind of, I realized just a couple of months ago, I realized that I was still following CBBS and various kind of little and they're really nice channels, but I was blatantly following them because my children were into CBBS and things like this. And so I was just kind of going, yeah, they're not really into this anymore, so I should stop following these folks. And there's no disrespect, but I'm just not there anymore.
That's not for me, really.
yeah. So it's seasonal things, seasonal hobbies and interests, and things. So a little bit later we'll be talking a little bit about more of your interests rather than the things that you're doing for your child. Those are important too. We're going to come to Geeky News. However, this week, Geeky News, I haven't done a newspaper, I haven't done a video, so I'm just going to do it live. So I'll just kind of announce a couple of bits. And so here is Geeky News. So on Geeky News tonight, we have three things to mention. The first is there is a Stardew update coming. This is somebody wanted to share earlier on this week. They're like, this is really exciting. This is going to be a big full-on update. And so all the Stardew community is all abuzz. If I'm honest, I don't even know what platform it's on, let alone anything else. But people are excited for it. So yay, very well done. One thing I am very excited, well, a couple of things I'm excited for is that the Acolyte trailer has dropped. I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. So this is a Star Wars series. You know, like Disney is kind of putting a lot of money into the Star Wars series stuff. And so this is the Acolyte, which is based 100 years before Phantom Menace episode 1 from the second trilogy. But chronologically the first, and anyway, so that's really exciting, and there's some really interesting characters. There's like Trinity from the Matrix doing her Matrix thing, but anyway, across the franchises. The other thing to mention, and one of the reasons why I'm not doing a video tonight or a newspaper, is that I've been hearing lots of whispers and murmurs and bits and pieces about Lego and D&D. And there's the Lego Ideas stuff, and I've seen kind of pictures of potential minifigures, which I'll post in Discord. But also there is a video, and I've got to credit my brother-in-law who just sent it to me about 10-15 minutes ago, and kind of went, you might want to look at this. And I was like, oh, where'd you get it from? He's like, Lego, the website. And I was like, I've been hearing all these rumors, why did I not check the actual Lego website for it? So I'm just going to play this for us, and in fact, let's just rearrange ourselves slightly so we can see it.
Brick by brick, heading to the tavern of mystery, unravel the story.
To the meadow we flee.
With the owlbear behind us, we fight off giant spiders.
With the wisdom of a sentient tree.
Now into the dungeon, the secret door.
With the space and peace, the wonder and more.
Let's get out of here. Adventure in action, we take on a dragon. The battle rages on as the wizard, rogue, or cleric. This adventure so epic.
So for those who are maybe on the podcast, we just played the advert from lego.com for the Dungeons and Dragons, which I think is here to commemorate 50 years of Dungeons and Dragons, and this is one of the many things that they've kind of got on in store for us. It was just kind of a walkthrough of various characters and kind of opening doors into other little bits, and there's little glimpses, and I encourage you to go and find the advert and look through and see the little bits and pieces, such as there's like a little glimpse of a mimic, there's an owlbear, there's all the kind of traditional kind of characters and things, and it looks really exciting. Emma, are you interested in any of those things, or do any of them make you excited?
I used to be big into Stardew Valley, but it was back at university, so I feel like it was like a very long time ago now. So I'm sure I've missed a lot of updates since then. So I can't even imagine what it's like now. It's probably miles different to what I imagine. And D&D I'm a fan of, so that's quite exciting having Lego part of it. Yeah. I do like Star Wars, but I feel like I'm a bit Star Warsed out, if that makes any sense. Like there's been so much of it recently that I'm getting a bit of fatigue, like trying to keep up with everything and watch everything. Just seems like a lot at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I am all for Star Wars, and my older brother was really into Star Wars, and basically, whether I liked it or not, I was going to be kind of force-fed Star Wars from a very young age, and so now I'm just like, just pile it on, keep it coming, no, I'm really excited about it. It's just something to fill that kind of Star Wars shaped hole, so I'm all for it. The D&D stuff, I mean, I love Lego, I love D&D, so I should be loving D&D and Lego. I'm all for that. I'm then intrigued though, because I'm thinking, are people going to just start bringing Lego characters to their games rather than their minifigures? and I'm sure there might be a bit of like a figure off, against like the Puritans who are all for the minifigs, for the miniatures, and a nod to Tom and others, that are all here for the miniatures against the minifigure kind of fans, and they're just like, is it going to be like little signs up sort of saying no minifigures and no miniatures? We're kind of be purists and otherwise. But I'm up for it. It sounds quite fun.
Yeah.
We've already got a couple of bits of D&D merch, that kind of crossover stuff. So yeah, Lego and D&D, I'm all for it. So I think that is the end of Geeky News. So yes, indeed. We move on, and just to again reminder, folks, that if you've been up to anything geeky, do please let us know. But we are going to come to our quiz. So if you have got a bit of pen and paper or a device or whatever you use,
Could I have pen and paper, please?
I was going to say we should do we give a nod to your tech assistant out off shot? Greetings or name drop you.
Okay, we generally have pens and papers all over because then he's very into drawing at the minute. So I think it'll end up being a felt tip.
Well, that's absolutely fine. I mean, to be honest, you're on screen, so you can just kind of tell it as it is.
Thank you.
These are...
Oh, yes, that's true, because you won't be giving an answer because you know the answers. So
Yeah. So I've got 5 questions for you, and if I'm honest, I think this is the 3rd or 4th week I've done all the questions. So I feel as if Becca is overdue a little bit of a go. So I'll bat it back to her next week, I hope. So question number 1. This also may give a little bit of an insight of what I've been watching recently in a number of these things. Question number 1. The Great British Menu is a BBC food show and an institution of celebrating food, local produce and regional chefs. But this year, what is its theme? So the Great British Menu is a BBC kind of foodie kind of thing with Ed Gamble and various people, and they go around the kind of regions, and each year they have a theme. Last year was Paddington, I'll give you that, but this year is a different theme. And so what is the theme?
Yeah, so that's not going to help me at all. I was trying to think of the food theme, and I was like, Paddington to me isn't the food theme. So
no, so this is it, and that's why I was giving you a bit of a hint that it's likely to be a big event that they kind of give a nod to. I think or was it the last year, or was it the year before, they had the BBC centenary, and so I think that was like the year before. So there's various big events. I'm really not helping, am I? So number 2, this is about kind of people who collect things, and this is what does a bryologist collect? So what does a bryologist collect? I'll give you a moment to think about this. And I'm going to explain, because it's been a while since we explained. The quiz is here as a feature, as a bit of a laugh, but it's also here to kind of help us to expand our mind about the sort of things that we class as geekiness and interests and hobbies. And I think it's here just to say, you know what, we can be as imaginative and creative as you like in regards to kind of our interests and bits and pieces. And this is just a little cheeky way of just kind of pushing that button of saying, well, what is a hobby for us? What is an interest? And do I consider myself a geek about it? And so I think when I ask these sort of questions, sometimes people kind of go, nope, not in. But other times people go, oh yeah, I knew this. And I wonder, I ask the question, I wonder why you know this. Is it because you're a geek about it or otherwise? So question number 2, I'll stop spouting. Question number 3. We saw Henry Cavill last week. Henry Cavill is famous for his acting in Superman and The Witcher and Mission Impossible, amongst other things. But can you name a hobby that he is also known for, or that he is popular for talking about? I have at least 4 on my list here.
I think I've got 2.
Oh, well, jolly good. Well, I mean, you can have at least one, as in you just need one for it. You don't need any others. Yeah, Henry Cavill. I think technically he calls himself a nerd, but I'm happy to claim Henry Cavill as a geek as well. So, question number 4: which judge is stepping down from Celebrity British Bake Off? Which judge is stepping down from Celebrity British Bake Off? Well, I would say that they are a celebrity, but which judge is stepping down from the Celebrity British Bake Off? I had to be careful because I thought it was the usual show that they were stepping down from.
Yes. I don't watch the celebrity one very often, I'll be honest, so I'm really trying to think of who there possibly could be.
Well, I think it's an either or. It's either one person or another person. So I was quite surprised how old they are. Anyway, question number 5, the last question. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, what is the activity of using GPS to search for small hidden prizes? I'll repeat that again. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, what is the activity of using GPS to search for small hidden prizes? How are you doing, Emma?
Well, I know the last one because we've done that before.
Very good. And I'm just going to give you a couple more minutes, folks. And I guess if you're on the podcast, you can just pause. But this is an opportunity here to just announce that, we do this as a podcast as well. We try to remember to describe things as they and when they come up, but not always. But we're also, if you are watching this on catch up or listening to this on catch up, we have also got a Discord channel server. And so you can find that in the blurb, or I was about to say write it down off the screen, but do people do that anymore? I'm not sure. Find it in the blurb. It's much easier to copy and paste from, or just click on using your phone or other device. So we're going to come to the quiz answers. How did you feel as if you fared with this, Emma? Do you feel as if you've done well, done badly, or somewhere in between?
Okay. I mean, I'll be honest, 2 of them, I have no clue. So
okay.
I know they're wrong.
You can't blame anybody apart from me, actually, on these questions, so apologies. So the first question: the Great British Menu is a BBC food show, an institution of celebrating food, local produce and regional chefs. But what is this year's theme? Any ideas?
Yeah, I just left it blank. I had no clue. I'll be honest, I've never watched it.
Oh, we watch it quite regularly at dinner times. We kind of, as a family, we watch it. And it is the Olympics. So to celebrate...
See, I was going to say that, and then I was like, well, it's in France. Why would we be doing a thing about it?
Because we partake in it, that's why. But yeah, no, it's true. Oh, you see, you should have guessed it. You should have guessed. So yes, the Olympics is the first answer. The second one is, what does a bryologist collect? Any ideas?
I assumed umbrellas must be what they collect.
It's correct. Yes, it is indeed. I thought it was quite a funny one and cheeky one. I think a couple of weeks ago I went through various collecting things and it was absolutely awful. And I thought, you know what, this is quite a nice one. And otherwise, question number 3 is Henry Cavill is famous for his acting, Superman, The Witcher, and Mission Impossible. But can you name a hobby he is known for?
I know he likes Warhammer a lot, and I think he likes D&D a lot from what I've heard in interviews.
I don't know if he does like D&D, but he definitely likes gaming. And I've put building a PC. I think during lockdown, he kind of shared a video of building PCs and things. And also The Witcher, because I know he's known for starring in it, but I think he was the most knowledgeable person there. And I think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, he was a big geek into it, yeah.
He kind of stepped away at the end of series 3 because of creative differences that he felt as if, the fans and he should kind of go with it. And he didn't get... He walked in the end. So question number 4, which judge is stepping down from Celebrity British Bake Off?
I just went for Prue. I don't know.
Correct. Yeah. And I don't know exactly why. I tried looking online and I don't know for sure why she kind of is stepping down, but she said she's temporarily stepping down from the Celebrity British Bake Off.
But she's doing the main British Bake Off.
Yeah. and she's already recorded this one, so
Mm.
she's already around for this one that is going to be coming out. I think it just come out this Sunday just gone. And so yeah, it's just really intriguing. But I was surprised to know that she's 84, which, to say I've still got TV, not been ages. I'm just saying that, it's fantastic that the BBC is still using BBC Channel 4 are kind of using good on them. And so question number 5, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, what is the activity of using GPS to search for small hidden prizes?
I think it's geocaching.
Yeah, indeed. So yes, it'd be good, folks, if you let us know what scores you got on. Otherwise, there's just a few of us on, so we might not get that back, but please do let us know in the comments what score you get. Don't be spoiling it for people in the comments. We've had to chase that up before and have a word, so don't do that. But well done for the quiz. And now we are going to segue into our theme of geekiness. And Emma, what would you like to chat or introduce us to this evening?
So I'm going to primarily talk about Studio Ghibli, and I might go on to talk about some other animes that I have wandered into and quite liked. But Studio Ghibli is my main topic, because that's I feel like I know most about, really. And I have my little friend Totoro here, because he's my little he's one of the main characters in one of the Studio Ghibli films. So I thought I'd have him at the side.
Yeah, so for those who are on the podcast, can you describe what I've even forgotten his name already.
Totoro.
Totoro. Can you describe what he is? He's like some sort of grey catty fishy thing?
Yeah, he's a forest spirit. He's not actually an identifiable animal. A lot of people say he's in between like a bear and a raccoon. But basically he's a big grey creature with whiskers and a big white stomach. And if you watch, he's very cute. Go see the film. He's adorable.
Is he a really large kind of creature that kind of
he's
floats?
Really, really big. Yeah. And like one of the famous scenes is like May falls asleep on his tummy and she's very little and he's very big. So yeah.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. I was going to say, I feel as if I've seen maybe a trailer for it or like a little excerpt from it rather than, I don't think I've, So is there anything obvious that or like a entry level for people you'd encourage people to kind of watch if they're interested in?
I think, so My Neighbor Totoro, which is where Totoro's from, I think is one of the most accessible Studio Ghiblis because some of them have a lot of like different things going on. It can get a bit complicated, whereas it's very easy watching and it's very calm. This is why my toddler watches it for like calm down time. We often put either My Neighbor Totoro or if people know Studio Ghibli, Kiki's Delivery Service or Arietti, and they're all very like calm, slow moving almost, so it's not too much going on at once. So I'd say they're very, any of those three are very accessible and they're quite easy watching and like easy to understand. They're just kind of charming and very childlike, which is what's nice about them.
But you don't have to be a child to enjoy them either.
And no. So explaining a bit, Studio Ghibli is like an animation studio in Japan, and it's primarily, there's a man called Hayao Miyazaki, who's a co-founder, but I'll be honest, he's the main person everybody thinks of if they think of Studio Ghibli. He keeps going into retirement and then comes back out to make one more film. So I don't think he can ever properly retire, but there you go. So like you think of like kind of Disney if they only made animated films and they were kind of a big studio. So that was like how I first ever got into anime, was through those kind of films. Sorry, my headphone keeps falling out.
No, it's all right. It's all right. So yeah, so for people, so quite Japanese style kind of. Is it kind of like I want to say almost like watercolor in tones, but
Yeah, a lot of the thing I like about it is artistically, it's all very beautiful. So there's like a common joke amongst a lot of Studio Ghibli fans that like the food in Studio Ghibli films looks far better than any real life food you ever see because it always looks delicious.
Yeah.
And there's a big theme for most of his films. They have like a young protagonist that's kind of coming of age, and he's got a lot to do with kind of industrialism versus nature. So you can tell he's a very idealistic way of seeing like the countryside versus the city, and that's always very interesting to see. But I like it just, most of them I like are just very calming, and it's something you can watch without having to overanalyze or overthink. So you might know, do you know The Borrowers? Have you ever heard of that as like a thing?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I never actually saw that, but Arrietty, their animation of the film is based on The Borrowers. So it's basically like these little people who live in this other person's house and they steal things.
So the studio has taken the inspiration of The Borrowers, yeah?
Yes.
Or is it The Borrowers? Okay, yes. I am of an age where I remember the BBC Sunday evening adaptation. So I remember that version where, and I've forgotten the actors' names now, but it is the guy who played the Hobbit in Lord of the Rings, the old character, as well as Harriet Jones in Doctor Who, who was the mum, and Arrietty, I've forgotten who was the girl who played that. I want to say that she appeared in I've forgotten. But yeah, no, I remember the original kind of BBC adaptation, and then there was the Americanized Borrowers film with John Goodman, and I've forgotten those actors because it wasn't as memorable. But yeah, no, I mean, it's really quaint. It's really great. So that's cool. So they've actually made their own version.
Yes,
Yeah. So is that an ongoing series then, or have they taken
it's
a little
just
bit?
So Studio Ghibli, they just do one-off films. They don't do sequels normally or anything like it. It's normally just one story, one film, and then that's it. Yeah.
Cool.
I was trying to think of another one. My problem is, I think most of people, because I made the mistake of telling my husband, I thought, I think most people know Studio Ghibli nowadays. It's not that niche. And I was talking to some of like my other mum friends from nursery, and they were like, we have no clue what that is. And I was like, oh, I thought that was because like people are getting into more Marvel now and things are becoming more mainstream. I was like, oh, that's just something that's becoming more popular. And I was like, oh, it's not.
I'm actually just bringing it up on Google because I did check this earlier on, and there are a couple of things that I'd recognise. So the Howl's Moving Castle is that one.
Oh yeah.
Spirited Away is another one, and bizarrely, I've seen it only on Crafting actually, but The Boy and the Heron.
Yeah, that's the newest one that's come out that I haven't seen yet.
Well, the only reason why I know that one is because I've seen somebody making a cosplay of the heron, and so it's just like because it looks a bit weird, but I have heard of Spirited Away, and Ponyo as well. I think I'm aware of as well. But
Ponyo's a good one once again. Most of the like nephews and niece in my family have all seen that one and enjoyed it a lot because for some reason, because they're underwater, that makes it much more enjoyable as a film.
And can I ask as well, just for those who, if they are going to go out and try and find these, watch these, I mean, are they easy to find? Are they easy to view?
Yeah, there's a ton on Netflix now.
Cool.
So if you have Netflix, you can find a ton.
And
whereas
are they likely to be?
I was going to say, it used to be like you had to look on like, I think there's a site called Crunchyroll or something like years ago because, it wasn't as mainstream. But now they're most of them on Netflix and things. So it's quite easy to find.
Cool. And do they, are they subtitled? Are they voice-overed or are they in kind of English? Or?
So on Netflix, well, because we watched with Lily, we've only watched them dubbed. So I don't actually know if they do subtitling. But this is often the argument me and my husband have, is that I like a subtitled one because I like to hear what it sounded like originally. And he likes dubbed because he doesn't want to have to read and think about it all at the same time. So I'm sure with Netflix you can just put subtitles on, but we haven't because our child needs to learn English and not Japanese. So
well, yes, well, I think Netflix, you can even if you listen in English, you can put English subtitles on anyway. I was just intrigued to know what the kind of the audience, the intended audience, would have been for, I guess, or whether they are designed for kind of world viewing or.
I think originally they were made just for Japanese audiences, because I think there was Miyazaki had an argument at one point. Some Western company took one of his films, but they cut a lot of important bits out. So then he kind of didn't want to make them as much for international audiences till his company was a bit bigger and he had more control over sending them abroad. So he could say, "You're not allowed to cut anything out. You have to keep it as it is." So yeah. Well,
we're as kind of UK based and kind of Western kind of based, we are quite kind of assuming this, like, oh well, if it's intended for the world, it should be in our language, and it's just like I think it's a little bit harsh to expect that sort of thing, So I'm up for world cinema, but I'm afraid I'm more of your husband camp of if I'm. The problem is also that nowadays I'm also maybe have my phone in my hand as well, and so I'm just like, oh, I need to actually pay proper attention to this. And if the film doesn't properly engage me or otherwise, I'm just like, okay, come on, what are you giving me? And then I might just dip out and dip back in again. But if it's subtitled, then I'm gone. But that's maybe a bit harsh. I think there are definitely films that I like to watch with subtitles, but yeah, it's got to be a good film in order for me to endure it. Ghibli. So, I mean, is it something that you've always watched, listened to? Watched. Is this something
I really struggle to remember where I encountered it because I didn't grow up, like my family wouldn't have known what it was. So I'm assuming I was just looking around the internet at some point as like a 13, 14-year-old and kind of stumbled across it. So yeah, and I think from that age, so I got into it first. And if people don't know, I have a lot of sisters. And then slowly I was like, hey, I've been watching this and it's really good. Do you want to watch it too? And so I slowly made all my sisters get into anime, but like one at a time. I'd convince one of them, be like, watch this with me, it's really good. And the next person would watch it. So it meant like, when we met up last year in London, we went and saw My Neighbor Totoro like as a play, and they had like huge puppets. And anyone who's a big fan, it was really worth it because they must have put a load of budget into it because they had live music and huge puppets. And so yes, I'm very proud that I spread my love to my siblings, so now they can go and do stuff with me to be like, hey, you want to enjoy this geeky thing too? I know I've made you like it, so.
I think there is a bit of sibling rivalry in that, though, isn't there? Of where you're kind of very careful to kind of go, no, I introduced this to you. This isn't I've taken it from this is my primary thing, which I've shared with you, rather than your thing that you shared with me. I have the validation to enjoy it. I had that with my brothers before, but that's why I acknowledge that my older brother was very much the Star Wars fan. He was there first. That's a story for another day. But and so when you kind of you said about that it's quite very calming. Is there like a deeper level to it that you find that you kind of that has made you enjoy it and makes it stand out above other things, or?
I think there's such a variety with Studio Ghibli. So they have really, really calming ones, but then they also have like heartbreaking ones. Like there's one called Grave of the Fireflies. And it's all about war, really. And how this brother, I think he's carrying his little brother on his back. And it turns out in the end, like his brother was never alive, like he was carrying his dead body,
Oh.
and it's like the most heartbreaking thing ever.
Okay.
I think, yeah, that's what I mean. It's really, some of them are very calming, and they do have deeper levels, but not like the countryside versus industrialization. You know, because he often shows like it's normally a young protagonist, boy or girl, who goes to the countryside and then finds like an adventure in almost a fantasy world.
Yeah.
But then there's things like Grave with the Firefly that are very much just based in reality and like the horrors of, you know, what happens in war. And then there's like things like Princess Mononoke, which is very high fantasy, but I would also say very weird. It's one of them that I watch, but I'm a bit like, oh, like I don't know if I fully watch it and understand all of it. So I think it really depends, but they do have a huge variety of them. And like Spirited Away, that's one that like is very famous, and I would say there's probably multiple layers to it. Like it's such a kind of loads of it. You could be like, did any of it happen? Did this girl just imagine all of these things and that's how she viewed the world? Like there's so many theories behind that one. So yeah, there's a huge range. I mainly watch the ones that are calming because that's what I like. As my husband says, every time we say like, oh, what should we watch? And I was go, oh, I don't want anything stressful. And I'm like, I don't want anything stressful. And he always goes, but what you think of as stressful isn't like a really stressful film. And I'm like, no, that it probably isn't. But I want something with very little drama on an evening, just to sit and like not have to worry about, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And this is it. I mean, I think I when you talk about animations and otherwise, they sometimes get a bad rep because people kind of go, "Oh, it's animation, it's for kids," and you're there kind of go, "But actually, it can be, yeah." But also, because it is obviously a made-up world, you know, you can't really have an animation that is real. You know, it's got to be cultivated. It's got to be kind of put together in some way, and therefore I think it gets unnecessarily a lot of aggro because actually, you know, but you can have TV that is often, you know, aimed at children, but it's very much in front of the camera stuff. Whereas a cartoon kind of often has to do a lot more work to be seriously considered. Like, for example, for the Oscars and things like this, where, you know, animation's really got to punch above their weight to even be considered in the same arena as kind of in you know, real life sort of stuff. But I think you're right that it's about kind of an animation is kind of inviting people into that world, and I think that cinema does that broadly anyway. But every single brushstroke or pixel, you know, is intentional, isn't it? It's kind of put together to convey something. Whereas, you know, anybody could pick up a camera and start recording, whereas an animation is intentional from start to finish, from the initial style to everything, and how it all kind of comes together is, I find, really fascinating. Really, I kind of enjoy it. That being said, I've not come across Studio Ghibli before, but I think my teenage years or my late to teenage years was into more manga and Legend of the Four Kings, I think, vaguely. It's a long time ago now, but we loved it because it was just different culture altogether, and it was like really vivid colors and bits and pieces like this, and the expression and dare I say the violence as a 17-18-year-old. It was just like, yeah, just give us some of that. And it was a similar era. I think Channel 4 was doing a special about Jackie Chan films and manga, and basically me and my friends were like, yeah, we're all for it. We'll just keep Channel 4, watch one thing to the next until the early hours, and we just kind of absorbed it. And I think for me, I just remember the quirkiness and just and especially as somebody who's kind of used to kind of BBC with kind of 4 channels back then, 5 I think had just come on, you know, that just to have something culturally
Mm.
different and culturally selling this kind of stuff in a weird and again from a rural East Yorkshire perspective, this weird and wacky kind of stuff. But I'm just like, yeah, this is cool. This is really kind of glamorous. I'm sorry, I've gone off on a little bit of a rant.
No,
but
that's all right.
but yeah, that's cool. That's cool. And so, is there one that you would recommend for people if they were dabbling their foot into Studio Ghibli?
Yeah, I think Totoro is the one to start with, and then depending like what your tastes are, maybe you could go on to like some more sad ones, or you could stick with the happier, calm ones. Like, yeah. But I watched. So I'm dipping into my other thing, which is other animes that I've watched. But I would say most of them are quite dark, actually. Maybe not as pleasant. So once again, you've probably not heard of any of these, but when I was like, I think this was just before I went to university, you've got that time to kill after you finish all your exams before you go to university. And I was really productive and just decided to get into various animes that I just watched. So instead of, going outside and enjoying myself, I would just watch back to back of different animes and just basically binge watch them. So one of them that was my main favorite one was called Death Note. And it's basically, once again, it's going to sound like a very, very strange concept once you explain it, but it is very good.
We're all ears.
So the main character, I think, is called Light Yagami, and he's a very exceptional student at school. Like, he's the top of his class, very intelligent. And one day he comes across this book that says Death Note on the front. And when he reads it, it's like written in Japanese, in English, and another language. And it says, if you write someone's name and you imagine their face, like you know what they look like, and say how they're going to die and at what time that person will die. And basically, he decides he's going to use it for good and try and get rid of like all the criminals in Japan. So if we see someone on the news, he like writes their name down, writes them to die, and boom, they're gone. Well, they're dead. But the main thing of it is there's a detective who he's up against. I'm trying to remember what his name is, called L. And it's kind of like Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty. And if anyone knows me, I'm a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. But it's basically both of them are so clever, they're trying to outwit each other. So Ella's constantly going like, well, we don't know how they're doing this, but we know like they normally die within this period of time. We know it's these people who've been on the news and then they've died afterwards. So it's kind of, most of the series is, you kind of see how Light, who's killing people, slowly gets more and more corrupt. Like at first he's killing people because they've killed someone, it's really bad. It almost justifies why he's killing them. Yeah. And then as you go on, he's like, oh, well, this person's found out something, so I'll kill them. And this person's done this, so I'll kill them. And I think it's just interesting, like, it almost lets you think morally about the start. You go, hey, it's fine. He's only killing really bad people. And it goes on, you're like, oh, yeah, no one should have that power. That's just, is going to cause trouble.
It sounds as if it's, kind of that progression of how power can corrupt and kind of be a bad force, even if it is. I mean, from the outset, it sounds as if it's bad anyway, but, it's the the justification of what you can do to get away with stuff and use that power. But that sounds really fascinating. Though I'm also a big Sherlock and Watson fan as well, so that sounds good. I don't want to do any spoilers though, because I've got questions about sort of saying, could the guy not just put the detective's name in the book? Anyway, but I won't ask that.
So
that's the question.
The whole point is L isn't his real name, and he knows the person, if they knew his name, could kill him. So that's why he goes by L.
Right, okay, that makes more sense, and lengthens the series somewhat, or the episode. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there comes to a point. This is when I stopped watching because they kill off Elle, and then for me, they just didn't have. He didn't have a good enough kind of combatant anymore, so I kind of lost interest because I was like, I like the battle of wits once the other person's gone, and I think they ended up. We had a noise, but we think it's next door and not our child getting out of bed. But yeah, and I think they end up bringing his children to fight against the other guy. And it gets, in my opinion, it gets a bit silly. So I stopped watching after that point. But the first season or few series I really enjoyed.
Yeah. But I think that's interesting as well, because actually with Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty with is it Reichenbach Falls, whether that's the film or whether that's the book, you know, otherwise I know that Arthur Conan Doyle was getting rid of Sherlock and he was, you know, a bit pestered by him. You know, when they finally, you know, kind of meet each other and face off, you know, and they fall to, you know, and sorry, spoilers, you know, that when they finally confront each other, then actually it does lose it, doesn't it? And actually, I think a lot of these detective things, that when there's that kind of merry dance between the combatants and otherwise, you know, it's really quite sweet. But actually, once they kind of clash, the energy goes a bit. It's like when you find, but you kind of have to do that. You have to kind of get them to come together, or otherwise it does kind of drag on too much as well. It goes the other way. It's just getting that right tension right, and the kind of the merry dance is quite kind of interesting. So yes, I get that. Even though I've not seen it, I can understand that kind of how that merry dance can chip away at the overall if it suddenly changes partner, and otherwise that's a little bit.
I think I had a similar problem. Did you ever watch Luther?
Becky did.
So I think the first series of that, he's a really good, like there's a woman and they're kind of outsmarting each other. And then I was watching the second series and I was like, oh, this other person's not as good. So I just stopped watching.
No, I get that. We're into like kind of detective-y things and bits and pieces, and having a good head scratcher and kind of working out how they're doing.
Yeah, we're big. We like Hercule Poirot and all the Agatha Christie stuff. We're big fans of. So
and I think this is it. That I think for me, I like the adventure, and again, it's that kind of escapism of going into this kind of scenario that you would never get, like, you know, the Orient Express. You'd never kind of find yourself naturally just popping on there. You wouldn't be naturally in a murder investigation. So you can, you know, from the comfort of your own home, you can kind of enjoy looking through somebody else's eyes and become a detective for an evening. And, you know, ultimately there's no consequences for yourself. You know, you're not going to get kind of caught up in violence or otherwise. And you can have a good old guess. You know, it's a guessing game. It's quite scary of how many times they kind of come back around to one of these films as well and kind of gone, I'm sure I know who did it, but I'm going to watch it a second time just in case. But again, that leans into me for when you're talking about 17, 18-year-old kind of waiting and kicking heels. I was watching Murder, She Wrote and things like that. But again, that kind of reflects more of the era that I was in and what was available on TV and Diagnosis Murder and things like that. And just a bit of silliness. But a bit of investigation goes a long way. And you can explore themes, I think, whether it's animation, whether it's detective shows. I think there's ways which you can embrace themes without having to hit them head on. I think that escapism gives you an opportunity to explore things that you maybe are harder to confront in real life, and these vehicles can actually help us. I realise that I'm rambling on. Is there anything left to say before we move on to our kind of? We're going to move on to kind of our geeky gallery. But is there anything else left to say about your interests or otherwise?
I don't think so, really.
That's cool. I just thought I'd give you a bit of space to say that otherwise. But thank you for sharing those things. I've definitely kind of some of those I've kind of pondered about sitting down and watching at some point, but I'll get around to watching them. I'll put them higher up on my list, and especially Top Tro. So thank you for that recommendation. So now I'm going to come to our Geeky Gallery. I completely forgot last week to do the Geeky Gallery. That being said, it's been quite a couple of weeks, so there hasn't been too much on. So I'm just going to rearrange ourselves again so we can have a look at some things. And again, this is just a little reminder that these sort of things, this is uploaded from Discord, and so if you're interested or kind of sharing about hobbies and things, go to our Geeky Gallery section, and your stuff may appear on the show. And so first of all, we have Mendip Nomad, and basically showing a little bit about his Chaos Marines, and going through a process. I think we've got another slide as well of how they progress from the kind of priming colours onwards, and base kind of colouring the bases and things like that, as well as Specky Geek talking about a new game, a new card game to kind of put his hard-earned money into, which is Star Wars themed as well. So that looks fairly cool. We then have I think it's the next progression, I think it's the next progression of Mendip's kind of colours and paints and things. So the bases are one colour, now the figurines are another colour, and then we've got Mendip again. So this has been over a couple of weeks. This isn't just kind of Mendip kind of flooding the market, but he's talking about this kind of different terrain. And so this is kind of quite cool, kind of cyberpunk terrain stuff on here, which looks pretty cool. But he does need to paint some Necromunda models as well, which I'll go away and work out what they are. So then we've got Lydia, long-term kind of viewer and guest on the show. I think she was here last week, a couple of weeks ago, visiting the Knitted Bible, and lots of love and care has gone into this. And so I think she's gone with her godchildren and insisted on counting 99 sheep. I don't think there is actually 99 sheep there, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are. Oh, I've opened a can of worms.
You're going to have to count them all now.
I feel as if it feels as if there should just be about 50 or so there, but maybe there is 99. No, I'm not. I'm going to move on. Because I can. And that's it. Is that it? That should be. Yeah, that is it. So that is the end of our Geeky Gallery. So I think it's basically everything that we've covered tonight. Thank you, Emma, for coming on and talking about Studio Ghibli and anime broadly. I think, and we'll just get out again, I don't usually get my phone out this much, but I think we will be back. No, we are not back next week because it will be Holy Week, and therefore Becca and I will be busy, and we'll also then be on holiday the following week. But in 3 weeks' time, we'll be back, and Becca and I will be around. So it won't be the first week in April, but the April the 9th, we'll be back with all the usual stuff. And we are still trying to get a few people gathered together, and to have a little bit more of a dedicated timetable of events and bits and pieces. But again, thank you, Emma, for jumping in last minute. Thank you again for sharing. And we do still wish James well. Hope you get better soon. And and thank you again, just for taking part. And all the best to your crew, whether family or a little one or your technician, and we very much look forward to seeing you again soon. I'm going to drop you off now though, so bye. And so folks, thank you for tuning in this week. A little bit different again from what was planned, but fantastic nonetheless. And so just one last little reminder, just to join our Discord if you can. We are available on podcast if you want to kind of listen and catch up another time. But please do just kind of like our page, like our kind of channels and things like that when you find us. And if you want to, you can recommend us to a friend. But thank you for watching this week, folks. And I hope you, wherever you are, you may geek safe. Good night.